Welcome to the Nintendo Ninja Show. It has been a very busy week or two since we have done the last episode. This is episode number 8. And we've started off with June with a bit of a bang, I guess, with the Nintendo Historia series coming into effect. We've done something nearly like a dozen videos on Nintendo accessories. We decided to start off a little easier. And some of them have an interesting history, like the balance board and the NES Zapper from the Nintendo Entertainment System era. So that's been very, very cool to do. Obviously, we've changed the background, which has been another big thing. I'm not too sure if we've done a show with the new background, but there's been some very, very cool things. So, So that's been a very interesting thing. So as you know, we won't touch much on news because we've got a lot to go through because of this Nintendo Cinematic Universe, which I've been plotting together and thinking for a while now, I guess. It's the best that I can come up with. I guess the only thing that I've got happening is this weekend we will be unboxing the Kirby Planet Robotic sort of game. It's going to be fantastic. Comes with an amiibo. I'm going to be very happy about that, and big cheers for that. And I got a couple more amiibos. I got a stack of Animal Crossing ones a few days ago, which was great. And I got two more, so it's about 64 amiibos. So obviously most people have them. I couldn't go without Tom Nook, I guess. And I got KK Slide and a few Animal Crossing ones for $4 only. Big bargains happening in Australia at the moment, end of financial year, so I would say. So, we are talking about the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. As you know, that Nintendo are looking at doing movies and all that sort of stuff, and that's being very, very cool, and I'm very happy about that sort of thing. So, and hopefully they say they're going to do it in the next 2 or 3 years, not 5 years. So they say it's not going to take forever. The CEO of Nintendo said. So let's have a look at how I would do it. I'm revealing the first 2 phases. And phase 1 of the first 5 movies is introducing a couple series that the mainstream audience doesn't know. You've got to remember this is not only pitched at Nintendo fans, but at newcomers. People who have not grown up with Nintendo. You know, people who grew up on Sony consoles and Microsoft and handhelds and smartphone games, you know, Flappy Bird and Angry Bird. So the phase 1 would be the first movie, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I think we need to do a classic story with a very well-known franchise. People still know what The Legend of Zelda is all about, and it's a well-known story. Any changes to the storyline and adaptation to movie, I probably wouldn't do so. I would I would probably keep it very much the same. I would say that too. So the second movie, I would make a Super Mario World. I feel like that's something that could be turned into a movie. It's a very standard but very classic sort of game. It also includes obviously a major role for Yoshi. I think that's part of the reason why I chose it, and I think that was really, really good. We would probably have a bit more storyline. I would say make it a bit comical at times, you know, Princess Peach being held up by Bowser, maybe a couple scenes there, what actually happens when she's being captured, and sort of Mario dealing with things like that. And I would say that there will be cameos from Luigi and Toad and all those sort of characters popping up along the way to help him out, or even, you know, team up with him during the adventures. We would modify it like that, I think, to try to include as much as the Mushroom Kingdom as we can, which I think would be great. The third movie would be Donkey Kong Country, which would be very, very cool. I would have Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong going off on their quest to get the banana horde back. I would cameo and have a couple of scenes with Dixie Kong and Kiddy Kong, because I feel like they're important characters in the storyline too. And I think that would be something that I would put into it. Seeming that there will be no Donkey Kong Country sequel that I would make until Phase 3 So I'm revealing a bit more ahead. So that would be what I would be doing. Just give them a cameo role, and King Aruk would be the main villain in it. It would be a bit of comic, sort of fun, maybe a couple serious moments in the movie, but there would be a lot of... It would be very much action-packed and sort of fast-paced sort of, stuff. And yes, there will be a very cinematic, awesome sort of minecart scene. It has to be. It's Donkey Kong Country. And all these films are going to be in CGI. Now, I thought about doing live action, but Nintendo's ruled that out. And I feel like the way that I want to build it up, I think would be possibly easier with CGI stuff. It would be nice to do it live action, but I think it wouldn't work with a lot of the characters. So, movie 4 would be Kid Icarus Uprising. I feel like this has a great story to tell, and it's one of the most underrated 3DS games. I feel like that this could be something that could be really, really good to put into it. There's a depth of characters, there's a depth of villains, there's a depth of storyline and background, and you could almost do an anime show out of this, and that could be a great spin-off for Nintendo to do. It's just a really, really good thing that I feel would be great and really, really good. So that I would pretty much duplicate the entire story into the movie as much. Not, doing 6-hour movies, but sort of, piecing out some of the more important major storylines and putting that together. So, the fifth movie and last one of Phase 1 would be Animal Crossing. I feel like I would like to finish off the phase in a sort of a light-hearted sort of movie, because I feel like that could be something to do before things get a bit darker in Phase 2. And I think it would be the story of a villager who moves into a town, and he learns about all of his odd sort of neighbours and the things that they get up to and all that sort of stuff. And, comically dealing with, the house debt from Tom Nook and stuff like that. And there'll be sort of, funny little adventures happening there and there. And then I think the main thing will be about friendship and sharing and all that sort of thing. And I think that might actually become very important, that friendship aspect, in Phase 2, which I'll go. Now, I'm going to actually stick a cameo of Kirby into this. And I think my reason why is it sort of tries to set up Phase 2, sort of a bit more of a space thing. And I think his cameo would be sort of shortish. He appears on the beach, and he sort of helps out the villager with something. And then he sort of says bye-bye and just sort of wanders off. And I would say at the end of the film, I'm giving out the ending, he's looking out at the stars and he's happy and content, and, he's moving in and getting to know his neighbours, and the town's turned out okay. And he sees a shooting star, and he swears he sees Kirby on it. And he thinks, and he sort of tosses his head and baffles a little bit about it. So, and that sort of sets up things for Phase 2. So, here's Phase 2, and this is where things get a little more complex. And so I try to get comfortable here. The first movie I would do is Pokémon Red's Return. Now, this would be a more of a serious storyline, because we've had 20 years of an anime series, and we've had Pokemon Origins. So, for me, we could easily just do a rerun of Pokemon Origins and just, have Red go on his adventures and things like that, or Ash Ketchum joining in the team. But I don't think we want to redo the same thing. Red's Return would be basically over 20 years later. He's now 30, 31, and there's a plot to try to lure him back into the world of Pokemon. He's gone, he's disappeared. He's almost become like a myth or urban legend, like this legendary Pokemon master. And what happens is that there's a great battle and fire that happens in Pallet Town, and his mother is threatened, who is now much older. And this forces Red's hand, and he makes his, his awesome return with a much older Charizard and a few other Pokemon around him, which is very cool. And he meets up with his mother and Professor Oak, who he saves as well from the terrible deeds done at Pallet Town. What they find out is that there is a new Team Rocket, who is led by probably a relative of Giovanni or Giovanni's son, who's around his age, and he wants to rebuild Team Rocket and turn it and complete the works that his father tried to do. So that makes it quite difficult. So, however, because the new leader of Team Rocket has particularly powerful Pokemon, and he's trying to access and trying to capture other legendary Pokemon, such as Ikeline, who's the god Pokemon. He has no choice but to use the one Pokemon that he never wanted to use, and that's Mewtwo, who we caught over 20 years ago. He's never used him, he's never released him, he's never battled with him. He just basically captured him 20 years ago in order to protect his region and area from potentially disastrous issues. So the movie sort of plays out with him trying to stop Team Rocket for once and for all, and also trying to train Mewtwo, who is basically fairly pissed off from being stuck in a ball for 20 years. So, and this would require, the level of a Pokemon master in order to tame the wild beast. And I'm sure that you'll see cameos from other legendaries and Mew and things like that, and that would be something that I would think a bit more about. Now, the term Pokemon Master in my movie would be someone who has captured most of the normal Pokemon and not legendaries, because I think it's actually impossible to be more than one Pokemon Master in the world, because I don't think the government or the world of Pokemon would allow you to capture, legendary Pokemon who can control time and space and the sun and the moon. I don't think they would allow you to do that. And I think the legendaries would be more powerful than pretty much any normal Pokemon around. So, logically, it does make a lot of sense. So, that movie's out of the way. So, Phase 2, second movie, is Super Mario Galaxy. I would say that will play pretty much mostly to the storyline of that. I say that you would have cameos from, Captain Toad, who comically says he's found himself a job after all these years. And Luigi will probably have a starring role too, which is very cool. And I would say that movie would follow the pattern of that. I was thinking of throwing in a cameo with Kirby, but I'm sort of humming and hawing because he's already in Animal Crossing, so it's an if thing. It's sort of trying to connect to more of that space stuff, so that makes it interesting too. So after that second movie, the third one would be Earthbound Forever. I would say that it will mostly follow the structure of the original game, or mix of the three, and it would be, the school kid going along and discovering the alien force and building up, going against this alien force who is turning all these people into horrible creatures and things like that, which is very, very cool. So I think that we would follow that sort of storyline, and that also ties a little more into the theme of the space and the universe and things like that, because we started with a very grounded Zelda and Mario and Donkey Kong in the jungle, and we're working our way towards that. So I'd say that movie would be sort of straightforward. This is when we get a little more complex as we move into Phase 2, Movie 4. And this movie will be called Metroid Bounty Wars. And this would probably be the movie that I would like to see. So basically, it's Samus in her prime. There's the pun joke. Metroid Prime. And she's going around dealing with her her enemies and dealing with the Metroids and battling them and things like that. And she uncovers, a plot by the Metroids that they're going to try and take over the galactic force that she sort of does a bit of work for. And she's known as a bounty hunter too. It's something that a lot of people don't do. So she often works alone. And there's a sinister villain, which we're just going to call him Sinister Villain. And this major villain tries to set her up and tries to sort of wipe her out. He's actually trying to wipe out a number of major Nintendo characters. So not only that she will be starring, but there will be major roles for the Star Fox team and Captain Falcon. So what this villain tries to do, he sends out sort of one of his henchmen, and they make her a deal saying, look, we want you to, we have a bounty on the Star Fox team out in space. These people are terrible, rogue animals. Look at them. There's a fox and a toad and they're out there killing innocent people, and they need to be stopped. Now, of course, we know that is full of shit. But Samus has never met these people before. So she's thinking, well, and they show sort of scenes of them shooting things and destroying things, which, of course, that sort of video image has sort of been cut and pasted a bit to make them look like they're terrible people. And she sort of takes on board that information and goes off and fights and goes to hunt down the Star Fox team, which, will obviously have some very, very cool scenes, her ship versus their ships and, fighting on the ground and sort of that sort of thing, which would be very interesting to see. What she doesn't know is that this major villain's henchman has also gone to another bounty hunter in the world, and that is Captain Falcon. And they have done the same trick to him, asking him to go off and take care of Samus, saying that she's an evil person, she uses her weapons against evil, we're just trying to keep good in the world of the universe. And he kind of goes, well, okay, if there's good money in it, or I can get a new racing pod, then that will be great. All right, I'll go and see what's going on. Now, obviously, with these three sort of chasing each other around, after a while, they start to notice that these people are not as bad as they think they are. And the plot obviously slowly turns out that they've been conned. And they stop fighting, and they take care of the Metroid issues, taking care of the Federation force. Because not only that they're attacking the Star Federation that Samus works for, but they're also attacking the world and the universe of Star Fox 2, the people that Fox McCloud and his team works for too. So they're kind of attacking both areas, which is very, very interesting. So we did not decide to use Star Fox's main villain, which may come in Phase 3 later on. So I think it was a way for me to sort of introduce more of those space-related characters instead of doing another 2 or 3 movies, which could drag out the whole process. So, and I would say that Phase 3 would probably have a Star Fox film in there somewhere. Now, the final movie, now, at the end of that movie, it will have like a post-credit thing, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this will tie into the final movie 5 for Phase 2, which is called Super Smash Universe, which basically implies that everyone is coming together for something. And you see this quiet scene, and it's Mario, and he's asleep. But he has a dream. He has this dream from Rosalina. And she says, and she's sort of like a galactic star now, after the events of Super Mario World. And she says that she feels that there is something terrible going to happen in the universe, in the worlds. And she shows him images that she's seen, sort of slight cutscenes of different Nintendo characters coming under siege and being attacked. And and Mario sees it in his dream, and he becomes really shocked and upset. And she says, this will be a battle that will require friends and enemies to come together. And the dream cuts out, and he wakes up, and he gets very upset. And then the scene cuts to Kirby, who's out in space, and he notices the Star Fox team and the Metroid team sort of going past him, but what he sees behind him is the darkening in the universe, the sort of purple gaze slowly taking over the universe, and he starts to see that there is something terribly wrong about to happen. So now we move into the final movie, which is Super Smash Universe, and the plot opens up where this major villain has now decided, well, my idea of trying to get everyone to assassinate each other hasn't worked, and I'm going to come in now and take care of it myself. And what he does is that he enslaves the armies that tried to invade the world of Earthbound. These creatures, these alien force that can turn people into villainous creatures. And what he does is that he goes on an all-out assault on all the different worlds, turning characters from Donkey Kong Country and the Mushroom Kingdom and the Star Fox universe, turning their everyday citizens into terrible creatures. And all that sort of thing. He is also somehow resurrected and taken Ganondorf out of his time stream and has brainwashed him and using him as a main henchman. Trying to use him as right-hand man to try to go through things. And I would say that this major villain, who I think should be just created, should not be a non-Nintendo character, should be a brand new one. Also what he does is that he develops special Pokeballs where they can actually capture people and characters in a way that trap them for good. Is his way of trying to, defeat the heroes. And obviously, when he starts to do this and taking over and attacking the universes of Mario goes off on his journey and his quest, and he finds Donkey Kong. He goes into the world of Hyrule, and Link, obviously, is told by Princess Zelda that there is something not right, and they all start to group up and come together. Kid Icarus probably finds out from Palutena about something, because obviously these are goddesses and princesses who can tell that something's not right. So he comes into the action with them, and they decide to take the journey out to space to see what's going on. I would say that Zelda and Link will use some sort of power of the Triforce to move into space somehow. Well, one of the characters can, obviously. And then they obviously, meet up with Red from Pokemon, who's a specialist in using his Pokemons and things like that. And then they meet up with Star Fox, Captain Falcon, Metroid, Samus, and they all sort of group together and try to figure out how to defeat this villain. So I think sort of the villain setup is you've got to make this villain particularly powerful, and has an ability to counteract the strengths of all these characters, and he uses sort of the chaoticness of attacking each of the different worlds and places, and they need to sort of try to defend them all and try to fight them off. So you probably have Kid Icarus and Link fighting in Hyrule, and Mario and Donkey Kong in the jungle trying to fight off things and that. And then eventually, I would say, we'll go off to space where they all sort of come together and try to work out a plan, which would be really interesting. So, I've chatted for far too long, but that is my Nintendo Cinematic Universe talk. Do have discussions and conversations with me about this. Maybe you got some cool ideas too. This is just my own opinions and thoughts. It took a while to think about it, it's quite tough trying to put these type of characters together because some of them work well together and some of them don't mesh with anyone else. And I pretty much use the major characters because remember, the audience that we're targeting at the movies are really not Nintendo fans. It's all about expanding the IP and the brand. It's not just about satisfying the fans, but it's growing the base. Because remember, probably the average Nintendo fan is in their 30s and pushing 40. So we're going to make sure that we keep finding new fans so we can have more games and Nintendo does well for themselves. So I'm going to bring this to a close now. This is the end of the Nintendo Ninja News show episode 8, and I shall see you later on. Bye bye.